Hey everyone, this is Angie Norris and welcome into my channel. You're on my YouTube channel, 60 and a Senior. And for the most part, I talk about bookish things. So I'm sitting up in my office and over my shoulder, you'll see one of my bookshelves. I do videos about my upcoming TBR list. I either I do pray as well, but I either play my jar prompt game, and I've recently started using these reader roulette cards to determine what my TBR list is each month. But I do play a game usually each month. I also do book review videos. I do videos about my most anticipated book releases each month. And I am going to do today a video about what my favorite books were in 2025. So stay tuned. Okay, in 2025, I read, as of today, December 28th, today's December 28th, I have read a total of 91 books. I may finish one more before the end of December, but I have been in a terrible reading slump in the month of December. I have only read 2 books in the month of December. I know, it's terrible. With Christmas and the holidays, it has been a struggle. But if I do finish it, this third one, I will have read 92, but we're going to keep it at 91 for now. My goal was 75, so I did exceed my goal. And believe it or not, I am one of those people that do not give out 5-star book reviews very often, or at least I didn't think I did. A book really has to move me or impact me in some way for me to give it a 5-star. So when I sat down and did my list of my top books in 2025, I was quite surprised that I had 26 books out of 91 that had 5-star ratings. So let's talk about a few of them. We're not going to talk about all of them, but let's talk about a few of them. Okay, if you're new to my channel or you haven't been following me that long, and honestly, I haven't made any content in a couple of months. The holidays have just really thrown me off. I have to get more diligent in the new year of making regular content. But if you're not familiar with me and what I like to read, I am a huge fan of historical fiction, contemporary fiction, Southern women's fiction, historical fiction, did I say that already? And mystery, thriller, suspense. I throw a little romance in there every once in a while. I throw some classics in there. I throw some nonfiction in there. I am not much of a fantasy reader. I will read it once in a while. I have read the Fourth Wing series and a few other series like that, but that is not my favorite cup of tea. I can read it, but it's not my favorite. So for the most part, all of these on my list are going to be either Southern women's fiction, contemporary fiction, historical fiction, maybe a romance here or there, and a couple of nonfictions. But we're going to talk about 5 or 6 of them. And the first 2 that I'm going to talk about are my nonfiction favorites. Riley Gaines, Swimming Against the Current. Highly, highly recommend this. If you do not know who Riley Gaines was, she is a young woman who swam competitively in college, and she had to swim against a transgender male who swam in the women's competition. And so the title of her book is Swimming Against the Current, Fighting for Common Sense in a World That's Lost Its Mind. And I just thought this was a fabulous book. I gave it a 5-star. Next 5-star read for me in nonfiction is a book that is called Nothing to Fear, Demystifying Death to Live More Fully. This book was written by Julie McFadden, who is a nurse, and she actually is very famous on TikTok and Instagram as Hospice Nurse Julie. And she talks about her experiences with her patients as a hospice nurse and what it has taught her about death and demystifying death. Nothing to Fear. I love this book so much. I've had several family members that have gone through hospice care before they passed, and my best friend is a hospice nurse. My first cousin is a hospice nurse. My best friend recommended this book to me. Several people in her office had read it. They had been passing it around, so I bought it. I've got it tabbed up, annotated, written in, highlighted, and I have passed this book on to several people and loaned it out. But I definitely want all of my children, all of my family members to read this book. I highly recommend it. Top 2 nonfiction. All right. Switching over to Southern fiction or Southern women's fiction. At the beginning of the year, I read a book, which I no longer own the book. A lot of these books on my top 26 list, or the 5-star rating books that I read, I either pass the books along, I gift them, I sell them on my Pango bookstore, and a lot of them I no longer have. So I'll insert the book cover either in the top left or right hand corner. But one of the very first books that I read in January was Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. And I had heard people talking about this book on TikTok or Book Talk and BookTube, and I'd never read this author. And now she has become one of my my most loved authors. And I'm trying to read her to zero. So I think I've read 3 or 4 of her books this year. The first one was Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe. I also read At the Coffee Shop of Curiosities, and her most recent release, which is the Forget Me Not Library. Heather Weber writes, every book that I've read of hers has been set in a small fictional town in Alabama. Different towns, she'll change the names of it. Most of her books follow 2 primary characters, and each chapter is told from a different person's point of view, but at some point their lives intercross and interchange, and there's always a magical / fantastical element to her books. So Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe, At the Coffee Shop of Curiosities, and the Forget Me Not Library, all were 5-star reads for me. This one I'm keeping on my shelf for a while because it was a new release, but this one is for sale in my Pango bookstore, and I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested in purchasing it. Okay, so we're going to switch genres a little bit. I love a good mystery, thriller, suspense book. And I'm one of those people that I usually figure it out. So it's hard to stump me in the suspense thriller book. So I heard a booktuber talk about a book that, well, she talked about the fact that she was like that as well. That it was hard for a mystery thriller to really be in her, 5-star top books. And she recommended that I read a book entitled Hidden Pictures by Jason Recollock. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I no longer have the book. I gifted it for Christmas to someone else because I loved it so much. I'll put a copy of the book cover up there for you to see. But that was one of my top 2. And it's hard for me to say which one was the top one because they're different genres. But in the mystery thriller category, if you have not read Hidden Pictures, go get it. I'm just saying, it will shock you. And then in the historical fiction category, my favorite of the year was The English Wife by Anna Stewart. I actually read this as an early reader on NetGalley, but when the book came out, my grandson actually got it for me. It was on my Amazon wish list, and he actually purchased it for me in paperback format. So it's going to stay on my bookshelf for a little while, but I love historical fiction, and this book is set in World War II in England, and it follows the life of Clementine Churchill, the English wife of Winston Churchill, who led England through World War II. And this book, it was fictional, but there is so much in it that is historically accurate. Sorry about that. I had to get a swallow of water. If you love historical fiction and you've not read this book, The English Wife, I highly recommend it. The English Wife and Hidden Pictures were my top 2 for 2025. If you are not subscribing to my channel, I really wish you would hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you'll be notified when I upload new videos. But what I would really love for you to do is engage with me in the comments below. It really does help my algorithms on YouTube. So I'd love to know, what were your favorite books in 2025? If you'd like to give me one in each genre, that would be awesome. But just drop your comments below. And as always, I appreciate you watching my channel, and have a great day.